Lord Kirkhope, or Timothy Kirkhope, from Yorkshire. Thank you so much for picking up the phone. What is it that you would like to tell us?
Okay, can you hear me all right?
I can indeed, yes, absolutely.
Well, what I want to tell you is that I think that the House of Lords certainly needs reform. I think most of us think that. But I think it does a brilliant job of correcting and scrutinising that the House of Commons less and less is doing now. And I think that the diversity in the House of Lords, which is enormous in terms of people who are experienced from all kinds of backgrounds, it's a sort of thing you can't replicate, and you cannot make it equivalent to the United States, because in the United States, as you know, the president and the presidential system has executive powers, whereas our monarch does not. It's an anomaly, but if it were not for prime ministers mucking us up, we would actually be able to reform it sensibly, and I think would give more credibility and more trust to the people in the country.
So if I understand you correctly, you think it's not the House of Lords in itself, but potentially the way that it has been used in recent years that is less than ideal. So what
exactly? And in very recent years, it's been mucked around in a way which actually is absolutely appalling. We have asked for restraint in the House of Lords on prime ministers who've come and gone, asking them not to put too many people into the Lords, because with the natural affluction of time and natural events, should I put it subtly like that, the numbers go down in the House of Lords anyway. The number of people out of the 800 and odd who are peers and peeresses who actually take part in the actual work we do, the legislative work, is probably only about half. Because, of course, a lot of people do like to have a title and do nothing about it. But the rest of us who do all the work do get a bit fed up when prime ministers constantly bung people in, not always suitable people. Though, of course, I don't want to be snobby about this at all. But, I mean, Theresa May followed that guidance. She restrained herself as Prime Minister. She did everything she could to help us with the reform process. The two following people doesn't look the way things are going, but they're going to be following that at all. And I'm afraid that does not show much care and much interest by prime ministers in the importance of the House of Lords. And the final thing on this, if I may,
of course,
we cannot, if we had two chambers that were both elected, can you imagine legislation, the fights that would go on, just like the Senate and the Congress in America, where, frankly, you're lucky to get anything through without an enormous amount of problems. In our case, we do actually allow things to go through. And, of course, we make sure that they're properly scrutinised, that we go through the processes carefully. Our committee structure is pretty good. And I think we do an extremely good job. Bearing in mind we are not paid, we're not salaried, we do a very good job for the country. So, I'm not saying everything's wonderful. We need to reform. Of course we do. But if we cannot do this, if prime ministers, leaders in the other place, constantly deluge us in the way they are, and sometimes with people who, let's put it this way, are a little bit suspect, shall we say that?
And so am I to take it from, we've kind of danced around it and talked euphemistically about it, but am I to take it from what you said that you are unhappy with these nominations by Liz Truss, which have been in the papers today?
No, I'm not going to specify individuals, because I think that's silly, because, I don't know, the individuals particularly closely. All I would say is that I do think it's a little rich if you're in holding a position of Prime Minister for 40-odd days. I do think that using the orders system in that way is probably something that we certainly need to look at when we are reforming the House of Lords. I think the whole appointment system should allow the commission within the House of Lords. And it's an independent thing, but it's a commission. Let them look at things. They told Johnson not to put certain people in, and he ignored them, because ultimately the Prime Minister can do that. But I think the commission should now have greater powers so that it can actually look very carefully at nominations and make sure that they are nominations that are actually going to enhance the House of Lords and be constructive in terms of the legislative job that we have to do. But we need to get that understood and done. At the moment, we're getting all the criticism. I mean, people are coming on your show, and they will after me, saying, "Oh, just abolish it all, get rid of these awful Lords." The truth of the matter is that the Lords, I think, do a very vital job. And our problem is not the Lords, but the person who's actually appointing to the Lords.
Lord Timothy Kirkhope, thank you so much for picking up the phone and contributing this evening.